A side effect of having high expectations for yourself is that sometimes after performance errors, you can get into your head a little bit. Well, the good news is that there's a really easy and effective way that you can bounce back, and it doesn't require changing your expectations for yourself. My name is Derek Sorensen. I'm a certified mental performance consultant through the Association of Applied Sports Psychology, and I make films about the psychology of enhancing human performance. Mistakes and errors in sport are inevitable. Every single athlete, from average to elite, is going to experience errors and mishaps in some way, shape, or form. Something that often coincides with a performance error is the distraction that comes along with it. Your mind stays in the past. It stays on that error that just occurred, and sometimes it can be difficult to bring your mind to the present so you can be focused on what's happening in that current moment. The brain does this because performance to you is important, and so if it doesn't go the way you want it to go, the brain has a hard time letting go of that thing. I call these moments after an error when we could possibly get distracted by what happened behind us, mental moments. Mental moments are essentially when there is a tug of war between our focus for the present moment and a focus on the error or the distraction. When your focus is able to remain on the present moment, that's when you win the tug of war. That's when you win the mental moment. So when an athlete asks me, hey, how can I bounce back or reset after errors? I have kind of a dual step philosophy for this. The very first step is to kind of have more of a robust approach, something that is a little bit more cognitive, something that you can lean on in a lot of different environments, including life, I would even say. And then the second step is to sprinkle on some low-hanging fruit sports psychology skills on top. Low-hanging fruit doesn't mean they're ineffective or unimportant. They're very effective and they are very important, but they're easy to do. They're easy to learn and you can implement them pretty quickly. I have a whole video on this where I compare mental strength training to an ice cream sundae, where you have that foundation and then the skills on top. I will link that video and you can go watch it. The more robust framework that I think is extremely useful for an athlete who's trying to bounce back from an error is what we call value-driven behavior. Value-driven behavior essentially postulates that you have some type of value, adjective, or word, and that becomes the compass for how you behave. Let me show you how it works. Real quick, I want you to think of one word you would use to describe who you want to be after an error. Then when you make an error, you just think to yourself, what would a blank athlete do now? So for example, I was having a conversation with an athlete the other day on this very same subject, and I asked him, what kind of athlete do you want to be after errors? And he said a leader. So I asked him, okay, well, what does a leader do after an error? And he was able to walk me through what he thinks a good leader would do in that moment. And that kind of created a mental game plan for him on how he should respond to the errors that he might experience while he's playing his sport. So if you haven't already come up with a word, I seriously encourage you, pause this video and just think, what's one or two words that you would hope to emulate or behave in alignment with after an error? And what's really nice about this is that not only does it give you a roadmap for how to behave when you experience an error, but it's also a really good point for feedback when that value or that word is really clear to you. For example, going back to the athlete who said that he wanted to be a leader after making an error, well, we discussed it and it was really clear to him what a leader meant. So it would be very easy to now reflect on certain moments where he made errors and be able to say with a certain degree of confidence, yeah, I was a leader in that moment, or I wasn't a leader in that moment. So that's the foundational skill. Something that is a little bit more easy, quick, and accessible that we can now sprinkle on top of that is a simple resetting technique.
A sports psychologist gave me the idea of, I used to tape, when I tape my wrist, I used to draw a big red button here as a reset. So after every play, good or bad, I would reset it. And you'd see me in college, I'd physically hit my wrist all the time. But so the only thing that's red on it is that, and like you'll see now if a football field, and I'll like slap it as like a reset button.
Resetting techniques are really popular within sports psychology, and if you've been playing sport for a while, you've probably had some type of exposure to resetting techniques. Once again, as I described, when you make an error and you make that error in something that is important to you, your brain kind of latches onto it like it's a threat. And just giving your brain that permission to say, hey, that's in the past, the button's reset, it actually does kind of tell the brain, hey, you can let go of that. And so that distraction tends to fade away, or if you've been watching my videos and you know this term, diffuse from us so we can focus on the present moment. And yes, I totally recognize that pushing a button or flushing a toilet or taking a deep breath and imagining that you're blowing out the air or picking up some grass and then throwing it behind you and imagining that that grass is the air you just made. I recognize that that's a kind of silly and almost childish, but you know what is also silly and somewhat childish? Letting a mistake from 5 minutes ago affect the way you still play and still behave. So your choice. You can pick which childish game you want to play. Me personally, I'd pick the childish game that enhances my performance. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you ever want to learn more about resetting or how to handle all the various adversities that an athlete might experience within their sport, in the description below, there will be a link to schedule with me for a free phone call if that's something that you'd like to do. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Rock on.